Hi, friends. So we have learned about angle relationships and how to use those relationships in order to solve them. And this is the 7th grade standard. So 2 of the different types of angle relationships are complementary angles and supplementary angles. Okay, so complementary angles are when you have 2 angles whose measures have a sum of 90 degrees. So, and mine won't be perfect, so please don't judge. When you have a right angle, okay, with a 90 degree, it needs that box to tell you that it's 90 degrees. And it's split. And all of these should have arrows. Jeez. Okay, so there is some angle over here and some angle over here, but the 2 of them add up to 90 because it is a corner. It's a right angle. So the other one is supplementary angles. And that's when 2 angles have measured, or there are 2 angles whose measures, my apologies, have a sum of 180 degrees. So that would be a straight line. Okay, a straight line has an angle of 180 degrees, and it would be something like this. It can be more than 2. Like, what's this angle? What's this angle? It could be 3, it could be 4, it could be 5. Unlikely, probably just 3, but it could happen and still be considered supplementary. So when we're solving these, the first thing we have to do is identify the relationship. So right now, all we know about are complementary and supplementary. So we're looking for, does it make a corner, that 90-degree corner, or does it make a straight line? Is it supplementary? Then write an equation for the relationship. So if it's complementary, remember, it adds up to 90. So something plus something equals 90. Remember, it could be 3. So something plus something equals 90. And if it's supplementary, something plus something equals 180. All right. Once you have that equation, no matter what it looks like, solve for the variable. All right, I just have an example of 2x plus 3 equals 27. So remember, we'd have to subtract 3 from both sides and then divide by 2. And I got the answer, x equals 12. And then last but not least, sometimes you have to use the variable. That's why it says if necessary, because it's not always necessary. But in this case, like how I got x equals 12, if I had 2x as an answer, I would need to substitute 12 in for x to get that it's 2 times 12, and then 2 times 12 is 24. And that's just an example. So I'm going to model this first one, okay? Very first step, identify their relationship. So I'm going to scroll up to look at those. Oh, it's a straight line. This is a supplementary angle. And I'm going to even write it in blue so it kind of matches the stuff up there. All right, this is supplementary. Sup. Since it's a supplementary relationship, I need to write an equation that adds up to 180. So I'm doing something plus something equals 180. And my somethings come straight from the problem, because since this is my straight line, these are the 2 pieces that add up to 180. So I have x plus 118 equals 180. Now, this is a one-step equation. I've got this. I can solve this. I'll put my line through the equal sign. That's addition, so the inverse is subtraction. Got a little crazy there. And I get that x equals, I would use a calculator, but I don't have one handy. So I need to regroup. That becomes 10. 10 minus 8 is 2. 9 minus 1 is 8. Okay, 82 degrees. And that should mean that 82 plus 118 equal 180. And it is true. So my answer is correct. That first angle is 82 degrees. Okay, that was a supplementary example. So of course, I'm going to show you one that's a complementary example. So I look at this. The reason I know it's complementary is because it makes a corner, but more specifically, it has that box. That box tells me that this is 90 degrees. All right. So step 1 is identify the angle relationship. Got it. This is complementary. Comp for short. Okay, so I did that. Now I need to write my equation. Complementary, I do something plus something equals 90. Oh yeah, because that's what the box even tells me. So something plus something equals 90. All right, well, I take it straight from the problem. So I have this angle and this angle. They add up to give me that 90. So x plus 62 equals 90. The next step is to solve for your variable. So this is an addition problem. I'm going to subtract. And I know some of these are like, well, I would just obviously do 90 minus 60, Miss Delia. Why do I need to write this equation? It's going to help when we get to these next ones, I promise. So 90 minus 62, 10 minus 2 is 8, 8 minus 6 is 28. And I'm just doing it by hand because that's faster right now than grabbing my calculator and typing those in. So those were when they were pretty simple. Just x there, nothing crazy, one angle. They do escalate a little. Not too bad though. If you're solving it with an equation and understanding how to solve your equations, you're totally fine. So I'm looking at this relationship right here. It says find the measure of angle EHF, and they'll label it like that, and you can trace it and it will show you exactly how it is. So EHF, this is the angle they want me to solve for, all right? And we're gonna solve for x, just so that we're covering all our bases. So first, I need to identify the angle relationship. So since, and I'm going to go to my steps to just remind us that they're there. Oh, angle relationship. It's not complementary. It doesn't make a corner. It's supplementary. It's a straight line. And I'm even going to cheat and kind of use it right now. I'm going to write an equation, and it's going to add up to 180. Ooh, got crazy. There we go. So this is a supplementary relationship. Remember, I looked that up, so I've identified it now, and that helps me write my equation. So something plus something, because there were only two. If there were three, I would have something plus something plus something, equals that 180. All right, well, I have 2x, and I have 48. And this is where we're using our knowledge of equations. Putting my line through the equal sign. Ooh, we got this. We've been doing great with equations. 2x represents multiplication and 48 represents addition. So I have to do the inverse of addition first. So subtract 48. That made 0, so now I have 2x left over. I know that 180 minus 40 would be 140. So 8 more, that should be 132, I believe. Well, I don't have anyone here to tell me if I'm wrong, but that should work. I think that's right. So now I have 2 times x equals 132. I'm going to divide both sides by 2 because that's the inverse of multiplication, and get that x equals, let me think, 120 and a half would be 60. So 65 would be 130. One more, 66. This should be that x equals 66, which is great. We solved for x. However, this problem wants us to get the angle EHF. There are 2 ways that we can do this. We could have solved it the same way we did last time, and instead of putting x, maybe put an m or something there to represent EHF, because it's still this angle plus 48. That gave us the 180. And then we could have subtracted 48 to get that it's 132. Or now that you have your answer for x, you can substitute 66 in for x and solve for this. So I'm using my variable, just like the step said. Right here, use the variable if necessary. It is necessary here. Or I could have solved it another way, but that's okay. Lots of ways to do this. So I'm going to do 2 times, because that's what 2x means, 2 times x, but x is 66. So 2 times 66. Oh, well, I know that. It's the answer over there. It's 132. So 132 degrees. That's the angle relationship, but x equals 66. Sometimes the questions ask you for only the variable. Sometimes they ask you for only the angle. And sometimes they ask you for both. So knowing how to do both of them is important here. And there's one last example that's important because it's got a little more to it than the last one did. So even though I'm looking at it, maybe I'm stressed out because I see those variables and there's more going on than there has been before. Start with our steps. Sorry, it's hard to scroll back and forth on this. But identify the angle relationship. Is it complementary or is it supplementary? Then write the equation. If it's complementary, the parts add up to 90. If it's supplementary, the parts add up to 180. So let's look. Oh, scrolled a little too far. All right, I'm looking at this. I see the box. It looks like a corner. This is a complementary relationship. It's the second time I didn't put the other jump on M. So since it's a complementary relationship, I take the angles there and add them to get 90. So in this case, and it has a little more than it's had before, 3x minus 2 plus 50. All right. So there are two different ways I can do this. All right. I can combine, think back to when we boxed and circled. 3 has a variable, so I would box 3x. I would circle -2 and I would circle 50. I would also circle 90, but it's over there on the other side, so it doesn't matter. And since -2 and 50 would be circled, I could combine them. They're like terms. So I can start off there, or I can still just apply inverse operations. And I'm just going to do that to make my life a little easier. So I'm going to start with the 50 because I start with the addition or subtraction first. Subtract 50 from both sides. Whoop. And that made 0, it's gone. So I have 3x minus 2 equals, 90 minus 50, that's 40. Now I have a simple two-step equation, okay? And also, notice how it's saying 3x minus 2 equals 40. They're telling me right now that this expression is going to equal 40, okay? And I'll prove that to you in a little bit. But now that I have the minus 2, I've got to add the 2. And I could have combined negative 2 and 50 to give me positive 48, and then I would have just subtracted 48. All right, well, that made 0. Bring down my 3x. That equals 40 plus 2. That's 42. All right, now I have multiplication, so I need to divide. Divide by 3, divide by 3. X equals, I think, 3 times 12 would be 36. 3 times 13 would be 39. It's 14. Yeah, because 3 times 4 is 12. Yep. So we get that x equals 14. And I already know that the measure of angle HJK is 40, because right here it says that 3x minus 2 equals 40. But I'm still just going to model applying that using that variable, okay? Because sometimes they won't be this simple. So I have, come on, let me write 3x minus 2. I'm substituting 14 for x, so I'm actually doing 3 times 14 minus 2. Oh, I know this because it's literally on the right side. I'm like redoing the thing that I just undid. So 3 times 14, that's 42. And I have to remember to subtract the 2. So 42 subtract 2 is 40. So I proved it 2 different ways. This angle is 40, but x equals 14. Because remember, the question may ask you something else. Right here, it only asked for HJK. So if this was the problem you were working on, you could have just said 40. You could have even looked at this and been like 50 plus 40 is 90, Miss Dolly. I don't need to do all this math. But some of these questions are going to ask you to solve for x, and they may ask you to do both. That's why I modeled it both ways. So of course, send me a message if you have any questions. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.